All right, what is up with it, people? Welcome to another episode of Let's Compose. Today we're going to be working on rescoring this scene from Breath of the Wild. I'm gonna be honest, I've never played this game before. I'm not really sure how the original soundtrack sounds. Uh, I am familiar with the overall sort of thematic harmonic content in the Zelda series. So I'm going to be working with that to kind of attempt to inject my own creative twist on some of this, world building. So today we're gonna work on maybe like a 25-30 second clip. I'll play you a little bit of the video here. Hopefully nothing crashes, everything runs smoothly, and we'll just go through the process live of creating a little sound bed, a little compressed composition for this scene. So let's start off by taking a look at this shot and what we have to work with. Then I'm going to break down a couple things and tell you about my thought process behind it. This place is called Goron City. Not too much going on, just a little bit of player exploration in this area. Right. Okay, so that's basically the shot we're working with today. It's nice and simple, pretty short, so we can keep this video rather short as well. So let's talk about a couple key things that I'm noticing, that I'm taking note of rather, before I even jump into the composition. One of those things is going to be, well, it's kind of obvious. We're going to look at the level design itself. We're looking at weather patterns, sort of terrain, textures, atmosphere, stuff like that, and trying to, draw some information about the scene that we can then translate, hopefully, into an instrumental. So I'm just gonna talk about some of these things that I'm noticing as I play through the footage again, and then we will jump right in. So it's very rocky. It's like, yeah, we got molten magma lava. um, it looks like it's probably pretty dry here, I'd imagine, with the lava and all. Um, so I can feel like a certain parchedness in the air. It's not looking overly chipper. It doesn't seem to be much of like a mystical place, so we want to stay away from that. Doesn't seem too friendly, although we haven't been attacked on screen, so you know, I don't know what the danger level here is in the actual game, but um, seems to be kind of passive, but not exactly friendly. Okay, so let's talk about the color palette real quick. What I'm seeing is a lot of browns, oranges. We've got a little bit of contrast in the sky with that bluish green. We do have a fair amount of sunlight hitting everything. Some darker reds in here for sure. We've got that yellow and oranges again in the magma. So the trick, I think, is going to be making sure that what we compose has a matching, corresponding color, like sort of palette. I don't know how everybody perceives music, but color is a big way for me to, uh, like get into the emotional side of the composition. So we're going to focus a lot on making sure our colors seem to fit. And again, it's probably very hot in this location. It seems that it's very dry as well in this location, so we're going to take those into consideration as we compose. Yeah. Okay, well, I guess those are probably the main points that I need to talk about, and anything else will kind of just pop up along the way. So we can get right into this. And I should give a little disclaimer. This composition is probably not going to start and finish as like one smooth process. Like there may be multiple times where I scrap what I have or scrap ideas and rework things, and that's just sort of the process of working on stuff like this. You just got to be really honest with yourself about how it's looking and feeling when you drop your composition into the scene. So let's get started here, I guess. As you can see over here, I've got a couple instruments laid out already. I spent yesterday doing some test compositions on some other scenes from this game. They were various different locations, so I could try different sounds and different moods. But basically, I kind of boiled down my instrument choice to these 5 essential sort of sounds here, and I may use all of them. I may not. I may add some different ones. We'll see. But from yesterday's tests, I'm kind of liking I'm liking the way these core instruments sound as far as building worlds for this game. So, all right. Without further ado, let's just get into it. Let's see what happens. And please excuse the raw mess that you're about to witness. So I believe I'm going to start this off with the Celtic harp. Kind of usually gives me a good direction of where I'm going, and then we'll begin to layer things on there. So I think I want to. This is kind of weird, right? Because I want to stay away from a lot of major stuff, major sounding things, happier sounding things. But the scene isn't particularly like daunting or like gloomy or like evil per se. You know, it doesn't give off that vibe. So it's not like I want to go super minor either. It's got to exist like in this sort of some halfway point between those two poles. So that'll be interesting. I'm gonna use the metronome too, because in this process, I do like to use the quantize feature. It's pretty helpful, and it can kind of glue things together and make them a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not quite sure what I'm trying to say, but I'm just going to use that tool, and no shame. So let's hop in. Yeah, right away I can tell it's just it's going to be an odd one scoring this level. It's sort of some weird halfway point between happy and like not happy. So I'm sure we'll go through several different ideas. Right away I could tell that what I was working on there just didn't fit, and that's such a big part of this. Is like you just got to be as transparent and honest with yourself about your work, not and try not to be super attached to the little things that you make, because at the end of the day, it's about the bigger picture of making this all work and making it believable and making it cohesive and all sound like it really fits and meshes together well. So let's keep that in mind, and let's keep going. I don't know. I'm going to teach you another trick that I use all the time, and not just in film scoring, whenever I'm producing music. If I'm working with MIDI information, I will religiously grab everything and transpose them up or down until it just sits and feels the way that I want it to, essentially. And what's cool working on things like this with that transpose function is you can, well, I suppose the way I use that is often to match a color with the sound, if that makes any sense. So I'll explain that more as we go on, because I'm sure there'll be a bit of that happening. Oftentimes, too, I won't do that until the composition is done. So I'll finish the whole thing, and then I'll grab all that MIDI information, and I'll see which key it works best in, with the footage, of course. Okay, I don't like that last one. So we're going to delete that chord. Okay, another part of my process here is if I don't duplicate this harp, I'll just I'll keep playing in new stuff on the same layer. It just depends, because sometimes you get like weird MIDI sustain information and like things just get a little wonky. So I'll mitigate that by duplicating the layer and then making my additions on that layer. And then usually I will collapse them back into one layer after I finish the composition. So let's keep going. Oop, didn't grab that last note. As you can see in Logic, I'm just using this looping function here, so I can start from further ahead, so I don't have to, start from the beginning every time. It's kind of like, this is all just improv, and it might sound like utter crap. It might not. It might just work. So there's a lot of trial and error. It's the fun thing about Quantize, is sometimes it's like, what did you try to play there? It just gets it wrong. I think we will keep up to there. We just kind of develop this phrase by phrase piecemeal. No shame. No shame. That last chord was like out of nowhere. Frickin' Squirrel Master came out of left field. like that. As you can see, like the end of this on the right of this yellow loop bar is right here. So there's not that much further to go as far as setting the main tone of this composition. Then we can begin to start working with layers and harmonies, etc. Huh. To key change or not to key change? That is always the question. Coming from a jazz background, that's all I ever want to do. But sometimes it's just not the right choice. I'll tell you that much. Ooh, okay. There's something I just thought of. When making compositions, not sometimes, it's almost always really important to keep each layer of your composition. What am I trying to say here? Try to leave like breathing room in each thing that you lay out, especially when you get to stacking instrument harmonies, multiple instruments with different harmonies going on. You really want to leave room for everything to breathe and to mesh in a nice fashion. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Little thing I thought of. And sometimes that's in, what am I trying to say? Forget about it. Forget about it. Just let your compositions breathe. That's all I'm trying to say. It's been a minute since I did a YouTube video, so welcome back. If this is your first time joining me, thank you for coming. Thanks for coming to my house, and good night, San Francisco. To key change or not to key change? Oof. See, we're already at the end here. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that just nuts? Ooh, I kind of like that. Okay, we're going to change this last chord since it's basically the last thing that we'll play before our clip cuts out here. So let's go ahead and find a chord. Oh yeah, let me mention this real quick. So that key change I just did, I like that choice because it sort of like disorients you in a like a median place between like minor and major, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's good. Let's change this last little phrase to something like da 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 da. Something like that. All right. Should we end on that chord? For those of you who do not know, Command Q in Logic is the shortcut for quantize. So I come down here to the MIDI window, and this is just for speeding up time. I Command A, which will select all of my MIDI information, and Command Q, and it will quantize it to my quantize settings over here. Just a little bit of fun facts. Okay, that I don't think is the last chord I want to leave in the viewer's mind here. Interesting. So we're using a lot of thirds, fourths, and fifths in this composition. I don't know what it is about them exactly, but it seems to be lending itself to the aesthetic of the shot or the scene or the environment or the area. So, just an observation. Okay, that seems more appropriate as an ending chord. And we might adjust any of this along the way. Now let me take the metronome off. I apologize if you don't like to hear the metronome. I'm not quite sure if I can set it up in a way that I can hear it and you can't. But you know, that's just the way it is. I think that more or less works. I mean, I'm not super attached to it. I did it rather quickly. If I was to sit here, if I came back and tried to attempt this video or this composition in like an hour's time, like the chances are that what I would come up with would be quite different from this. And that applies to any other time that I would like come back to tackle this challenge. You never know what it might sound like, so I can't say honestly at the end of this video that I'll be like super satisfied with how this turns out, but that's not exactly the point right now. I'm just trying to show you the process and give you my thoughts as I go through something like this. Is that cutting off some MIDI data there? No, that's it. That's what I played. Okay. Maybe it needs... Let me try this. Don't want that leading. I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this first chord, and we'll come up with a better option there. Whoop. Shit. Okay, we should be fine. It's kind of abrupt. It doesn't flow too naturally. That's partly because of the quantize, but I think we can figure this out rather easily. Let's just zoom in here. I'm going to bring our loop marker back to 101. And we're going to delete these first three, and we're going to start fresh from there. Ooh. Yeah, I like that. I like that. And we got a little bit of space here. That is what I like to call breathing room. Let your compositions breathe, folks. All right. Did that work? I think I like that. If I'm being honest, I don't know if this like I don't know if this composition necessarily gives me like rocky volcanic vibes, but we're gonna roll with it. And maybe we can maybe we'll find at the end when we mess around with some of the transpositional stuff that we can get it to sync a little bit more with the texture and color palette of the level. So let's keep going. Okay, I've found that harp and glockenspiel together, especially if they're mirroring each other, sound pretty magical. So we're gonna see how that sounds. I've got the glockenspiels pretty low. I'll adjust them accordingly, but you don't want those to be overwhelming, especially if there's a lot of high-end ringing in the bells. But right away, it just sort of adds this life, this like sort of magical, whimsical element to the composition, which I really like. Now sometimes these glockenspiels, since I just copied the same MIDI information, sometimes they sound better if we bring them up an octave. So I think I'll probably do that. The question is more or less, where do I make that transition from the lower to the higher octave? Haha, that chord, it was the right choice. Alright, well I at least know that I like it starting here. It may be able to go even further back. That's not what I want to do. This section here, there's a lot of movement, so I want to make sure that that sounds good. Let me try and transpose it from this section. Once again, we're just bringing these glockenspiels up by an octave. Oh, that does sound good. Should I get rid of these lower bells? I mean, they're not low, they're still rather high, but you know what I mean. We got a lot of bells going on. Yes, that's good, that's good. Okay, so honestly, so far this composition's working out pretty good. I don't want to go. What am I trying to say? I don't want to use too many layers here. Things can tend to be overcrowded really quickly, and more complex is often not the answer. It's usually about getting just a small but really just a really good core of instruments there going. So we don't want to complicate things beyond utility. and we don't want to populate the composition with a bunch of elements, especially in a shot like this where I don't know. I'm just trying to think of this in my head, like this sort of sense of like dryness and parchedness in this scene. Like we don't want it to be necessarily lush with harmonies and instruments and all that. So I want to, whatever I end up doing here, I want to find a way to sort of suck the air out of the composition, however I can manage to do that. I'm wondering if that part right there would be a good spot for maybe piano? I'm gonna go ahead and turn my metronome back on. Try a couple dias with this. This might be able to work. I need to get rid of these two, change those out. No. That's kind of a nice subtle touch. Okay, I think I like that. We'll drag the sustain out just a little bit. Okay, here's what I'm thinking about on the spot right now about this. I'm wondering if I need to... I'm wondering if I need to do something to cover a bit more of the low end in my mix. 'Cause I'm just thinking about, like, I don't know, rocks and earthiness and magma, and like there's a sort of a sense of weightiness to all that. So I'm wondering if maybe I should try to imply that somehow with a bit of low end somehow. And also somehow. So I don't know. Okay. I mean, honestly, that might be all I need as far as the piano goes. Oh. Oop. Go ahead and drag that back. The joys of quantize. Okay. I think I like that phrase. Gonna go ahead and delete those. The piano is kind of adding a little bit of that low end. I'm sticking more towards the center of the piano, that sort of middle C octave range. Should that continue on? Do I like that counterpoint? Hard to say. Ooh. Okay, that lower D, add, gotta add that lower D, I tell you what, it's essential. All right, let's go ahead and start from the beginning, see what we got here. Yeah, so if you're wondering, we're essentially playing in the key of D minor here. I'm doing a lot of fourths and fifths around the D scale, the good old D scale. Piano might be a little loud here. Let me grab these. I'll give them a little bit more sustain, then I'm going to bring the velocity down. Yeah. I might be needing one more note in there with the piano. Let's try that. No. Got too busy with that move. It was not the right move. Maybe it needs a lower note here. Yeah. I don't know if you can even hear that, but I just I threw in a low G and a low D in here on the piano. Yeah, I like that. Oh, I like that. Awesome. Okay, I really like that. Once again, just keeping it simple, making sure everything can breathe and all the instruments sound good with each other. They give each other space. Um, yeah, let me think. Now, I've really liked I did 4 previous compositions yesterday, just basically as tests for rescoring Breath of the Wild. And I really like the way I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Erhu, I don't know, something like that, I imagine. It's this Chinese instrument. It just sounds great in this game. It gives it like a folksy sound. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but I really like the way it works with this dynamic. So we'll see if we can fit that into this piece somehow. Okay, it's a little bit loud. Okay, so I'm going to leave that how it is, and then maybe try to come up with something right about here. Drag this back just a little bit. Okay, so not in love with that. Yeah, not in love with any of those takes. Might help if I have the metronome on. Whoop. Interesting. Okay. So it didn't quantize everything perfectly, but that's okay. We'll make a couple adjustments. That might have been a good take. Minus or plus a couple things. You know what I'm noticing too, that some of these lower notes on the Erhu, the Chinese French instrument, they're helping fill that sort of dry lower end, and this instrument has this sort of texture about it. It's like, I don't know, it's like earthy. I don't know, it just has that earthy quality to it. So in any case, I think it's working good here. Okay. Control Z. Got to make this part flow a little better. Ba-da-da. Nope. What's going on? Okay. Oh yeah. We got that little key change there. Oh, should do a little chromatic walk like that. Oh, interesting. And then it kind of jumps back up here to these this higher octave. I found on this instrument specifically, what I'll have to do is I'll usually give things a little bit more sustain on the ends, so they don't just like cut out in this like stark way. Is that late? That is late. How did I know? How did I know? Okay, I like that. What I don't know is if I like this jump back up to the higher octave, or if it's as like if it flows as good as it could. I don't hate it though. Maybe it's a velocity issue. Like it's just a little too stark. Yeah, that's it. Sweet. I really like that. Okay. And as you can tell, that last note on this instrument was sustained out a little too long, and then it just sort of like cuts out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an automation volume dip on this layer. Oh, whoop. Wrong spot. So we'll start it here and we'll say fade out about there. Is that note late? Might be. Yep. It's funny the things that you hear and don't hear, like just with iterative, like listening through this many times, there's things that you just catch that like you weren't hearing for the first 20 times through, and you're like, oh, what the hell? Like, where'd that come from? Yeah, that's nice. Okay. All right, so we're going to watch through this one more time with everything that we have so far. We're going to see if we like it, and then from there we will do a little bit of mixing if it needs any, and we might change the key that the composition is in just to see if we can't optimize it to fit the scene. Other than that, pretty happy with what we got today, so let's take a listen. Awesome. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I feel I tried to make this composition neutral, which is, it could be a bit of a struggle, but I think it came across all right. Honestly, this composition could probably work in other areas that are not dry lava places. I wouldn't be surprised if it felt quite natural in like a forest scene or, whatever, different places it could work, but pretty satisfied with this. So, the last thing we're going to do is let's grab all of this, all of our layers. We're going to Command A and grab all the MIDI info. And then in Logic, the shortcut for transposing is Alt or Option and then up and down on the keyboard. So we're going to see, honestly, the key that this is in kind of works in my opinion, but why not see if it works better in a different one? That made it happier. It made it brighter. I don't think the answer is to go brighter. Interesting. Going one more lower. I kind of like that. It seemed to dry it up a bit, if that makes any sense. I have no idea if that's how you were perceiving that. I kind of like that, though. What I noticed, though, and I'll notice this a lot when I'm doing these transpositions at the end of the project, is that whether I go up or down, oftentimes things in the mix or even just things I played in will reveal themselves with greater clarity, as in like mistakes will pop out at you a bit more. So that is helpful. That is helpful. Even if you go back to the original key and just use transposition as a means of finding things that sound a bit unpleasant or just were mistakes and you couldn't hear it in that key for whatever reason. So it's a good reference tool, if nothing else, for that sort of thing. Okay, I've got this little bit of reverb I just threw on everything, just to sort of, I don't know, liven up the sound a bit, make it feel like it's being projected into this game world where it's like echoing off the objects. It's really subtle. It's not like a lot of reverb, but it kind of helps. All right, well, that's the finished composition, basically. I like it in this key. I like the way everything turned out. Whether it is the best score or composition for a dry, lava rocky place, which looks like that's probably Colorado. I don't know if it honestly works the best, but I don't hate it. I'll tell you that much. And if nothing else, you kind of got to see the process of how I would walk through something like this, and hopefully been a little bit inspired and got some tips. Hopefully you just enjoyed watching this process unfold. So one more time, I'm gonna play it through, and then we're gonna wrap it up. So thanks, guys, for sticking around.
Goron City, the land of the rocks and magma.
Sweet. I like it. I actually really like it. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. So if you're new to the channel, thanks for coming by to watch a little bit of this process. Do a lot of different stuff like this. So go ahead and hit subscribe. That would be awesome. And you guys can leave comments in this video of like different games that you'd like to see me score, or just different video types you'd like to see. Any questions or comments, go ahead. Feel free to leave them. I don't bite. I would never bite somebody. So we'll catch you on the flip, guys. Thanks for watching.